Well, that right there was certainly a finale to take in with regards to everything that it gave us, and the Ahsoka show has officially ended, and right now we are going to talk about my thoughts with regards to the finale and what it could offer for us to see in the future for Star Wars. First and foremost, before we get into anything, I just want to say once again, rest in peace to Ray Stevenson, who gave his final performance, not just as Balin Skull, but for anything to come in the future, considering I believe that this is the last project that he did before he got the chance to film anything else at the time of his passing. I thought he played the character so incredibly well and arguably gave the best performance out of any actor. He has a presence that is going to be very missed, and considering what happened at the very end of the finale with his character, I know there was a lot more in store for him, and I just hope that we do see that again in the future, and hopefully with a new actor in mind. So again, rest in peace to Ray, and at some point I'm going to try and make a nice edit for his character to make into a video at some point in the future, so stay tuned for that. With that all in mind, I would now like to jump right into the episode and talk about what I felt about it. Overall, I would say that it was a decent finale, but not the greatest finale that I've ever seen. It certainly doesn't top something like A Mandalorian Season 2, or honestly, I would say it doesn't even top the Andor finale for Season 1. It was a finale that definitely left me really interested to know what's going to come in the future, but overall, I would say that there are other finales that I remember so much more than this one. Again, a decently good episode, but not a great one. The beginning of the episode was very interesting, as it basically starts with Thrawn coming up with a plan to attack our heroes while they are trying to come backwards towards the Star Destroyer. At the same time, we see that Morgan Elsbeth gets indoctrinated into the cult of the Mother Witches, where they are basically turning her into one of them. She gets the dark eyes and the makeup on her face, and she also gets a really cool sword that just so happens to be the sword of Mother Talzin. It's a flaming green sword imbued with the magic of the Mothers, basically something that she can use to help fend off Jedi, and it is something that we've seen happen before in the Clone Wars, where she fought Mace Windu with it. This is now its second appearance, and potentially could be the last one we've ever seen of it, and with her becoming a new mother, which later on in the episode I thought that she put up a great fight against our heroes, particularly Ahsoka. Our next sequence takes place inside of the T6 shuttle, where Ezra and Huyang are working to build his new lightsaber. At first glance, I actually thought that they were working to build his original design from Rebels, but then I realized that it was a new design, and this time with a blue kyber crystal instead of a green one. Very interesting, and honestly I like it because it removes itself from Sabine's saber, which was his original one. We also get a scene of her and Ahsoka talking to each other on the ship as they are escorting our turtle people characters, or whatever species they are, and this happens at the finale as well, and it basically just a conversation between them, basically making up for the divisive times that they had together. Overall, I would say that this scene probably went on a little bit too long. I will say I thought it was dragged out a little bit, and I honestly feel like that we had already had a couple of scenes like this before, and they probably could have saved this for the finale, or at least I should say the end sequence of the finale. But I will say though, it is definitely something that needed to be resolved in this season, and I'm glad that they did it now. They then get attacked by two TIE fighters that Thrawn sent out to attack them, and they do their mission even when dying, and as Thrawn says in the next scene, it is an acceptable result given what he was trying to do, which is of course escape and buy him more time. Again, also just to showcase how smart of a character he is to know when he's won and when he doesn't need to push it any more than what he's already given it. The next sequence is basically the beginning of the main crux of the episode, which showcases our heroes in a last-ditch effort to stop him from escaping the new galaxy. Thrawn has to stop them by formulating a ground assault inside of the temple statue that he is in, while also throwing an Imperial bombardment down at our heroes, which was pretty cool to see since the last time we saw him do that was at the finale of Rebels on Lothal. With no surprise at all, they get through both the bombardment but also the night troopers set up inside to stop them. What comes next is arguably one of the craziest things I honest to God never thought live-action Star Wars would ever cover. It was something that I certainly predicted would happen, but not in the way that it did, and I had originally thought that all those night troopers were under his command were dead, but they weren't. They were actually all alive still. It was confirmed to me that that was the case after he sent them originally in the last episode. You hear them speaking regular language, and someone who's dead doesn't really ever do that. In the next scene, we see the mothers conjuring up a magic spell to bring all that just died back to life as undead troopers. For the first time ever, Star Wars actually tackled the idea of zombies in live action. Again, I seriously never thought that they'd do this because a lot of zombies movies and shows that you've seen before in the past that aren't Star Wars related have usually been more mature and rated R because of all the blood and violence and gore. This was a much more PG-13 way to go about it, but yet with one of the big sequences that we get later on after this, I was impressed that they went to the lengths that they did. So basically now all these troopers are unstoppable and can't die, and yet can still shoot back at them, which is just crazy. We see that Thrawn commands Morgan to stay behind and sacrifice sacrifice herself in order to let the hyperspace ring get the Star Destroyer into space. He does this with 2 Death Troopers standing right behind him, which was also a new reveal. Death Troopers are some of the coolest things about the Empire, so it was just good to see them there as well behind him, and we'll get to the big reveal for them in a second. The next big sequence is showcasing Morgan in a duel with Ahsoka as Sabine and Ezra go up top to fight off the 2 Death Troopers. Both were good fights, but the thing that I, again, lost my mind over with the reveal of one of the Death Troopers literally having a full-on zombie configuration done to him, I lost my mind at this. It was basically when all that armor on his face was ripped off by the blaster shots from Sabine's gun that you could see his zombified mouth and face with those disgusting teeth. Again, I never thought that they would do this, and also for it to be seen on a Death Trooper is very potent considering the first time zombies was ever explored was in a book literally called Death Troopers by author Joe Schreiber, who explored this back in 2009 during the days of the Legends books. Either Filoni did that on purpose, or someone told him to do it that way because that is just so awesome. We next see that Sabine is in a chokehold with this zombie Death Trooper, and in a last-ditch effort, she finally finds her grip on the Force and brings the lightsaber into her hand to kill her trooper, while Ezra gets a shot at his to also kill his trooper. They realize that the Chimera is too far out of reach to get to, and admittedly, I will acknowledge that at first I thought the scene was a little ridiculous, but then I thought it over and told myself that I had seen even more ridiculous jumps made by Jedi before in other shows like Tartakovsky's original Clone Wars, where Mace Windu was jumping like crazy to big lengths in his battle, if anybody remembers that. Ezra, with the help of Sabine, manages to get on board the destroyer and sees Ahsoka coming back up while under attack from Morgan and other troopers. Ahsoka loses one of her sabers and is caught in a trap, but out of nowhere we see that Sabine decided to stay behind and save her, and in doing so, she finds an upper hand on Morgan and takes her sword from her and kills her using both the sword and saber. Rest in peace, Morgan Elsbeth. I thought that this was a good character and an interesting one in the journey that she took us to get to Thrawn, and so I thought that it was a good ending for her to go out this way. After she was killed, Thrawn orders another Imperial bombardment on the temple. Our heroes manage to jump on board the T-6 shuttle that is now repaired, and we see that the bombardment only ends up killing all the troopers left behind, which was pretty funny, but also they ended up doing their job for Thrawn, and they held off our heroes long enough for him to escape. Long enough to the point where our very next scene showcases us seeing Thrawn hail our heroes over the voice comm on the shuttle, basically showcasing how he knew he was going to escape. He planned it all out knowing that the fact that she was Anakin's apprentice and that everything that she did was exactly like how he would have done it, and he played her at her own game. A perfect way to then also see him jumping through hyperspace and leaving everyone else left behind. Thrawn wins, and I honestly expected that he was going to win, and it didn't matter how many losses that he would take, he knew that he was going to do it as long as he planned it out strategically. Our next sequence sees our heroes coming back down onto Peridia and reuniting back with the Turtle People, considering they don't really have much else to do and nowhere else to go with anyone that they know that lives on that planet. I would also say that something that I thought could have been done better here and in the final scene of the episode was how our characters were directed to give emotions. Considering the magnitude of the event that just took place, I swear our characters should be feeling way more down and sad that he was able to escape. I don't know, I guess that's just something that I wish was changed a little bit in the writing. This is something that's also akin to how we saw Sabine first see Ezra after 10 years. It just didn't feel like there was enough emotion there. Our characters are stranded here in this galaxy with no way to get back, and it doesn't feel like there's enough emotion there to describe the situation, but again, maybe that's just me. I'd be curious to know what everybody else thinks about that. In the same scene, we get Ahsoka seeing Morai out of nowhere. Morai is a convor, or owl as we know it in real life, that is a spiritual depiction of the daughter from Mortis. We know that the daughter, of course, died in the Mortis arc, and she then, after that, put herself in what is called Morai, which is the creature that we see as that owl. We saw her as well at the end of the Clone Wars Season 7 in the final shot where Vader sees her flying off. Now, the next several scenes are pretty big, so let's just go right through them one by one. Firstly, I won't even begin to lie about this, but I had completely forgot throughout this entire episode that Shin and Balin were even a thing. I was so completely focused on the journey that we had been with that those two characters had left my mind completely. We get our first sequence of Shin, which is very short and one that again leaves me questioning what is to come in the future for her. She raises her saber up while looking down on a raider camp filled with the same raiders that we saw in the previous episodes. So I imagine she's about to take control of them as their leader, but for what purpose? I also want to say that in a way I feel like this contradicts what Balin told her in the previous episode. In that episode, he told her to take her place in the coming empire. Thrawn's empire that I would have assumed, but we now know that that's never going to happen because there's no way for her to get back to the original galaxy. So I'm just curious what the point of Balin telling her all that was for. I feel that there is so much more that we don't know, or maybe that was missed to these characters than what we did end up getting. As we'll see in our next scene, we see Balin coming over a ridge on a mountain, and in the distance there is a flashing light that he sees, and the camera cuts around to his front, only then for us to see, I think, arguably one of the top 3 biggest reveals of the show. 3 towering statues of not just the father, but also the son and the daughter. Admittedly, the one of the daughter is completely broken and shattered, but those are in fact statues of all 3. So this was the power that he was seeking. I had seen a lot of people suggest that this was going to be the case of the type of power that he was seeking. I just did not think that these characters were going to be on this kind of planet and in this new galaxy. This is such a big reveal and a big deal for all of Star Wars lore. This makes the planet of Peridea arguably now one of the most important planets in all of Star Wars. The father, son, and daughter are such integral parts to Star Wars, as we've already seen them for their arc in the Clone Wars, and now it seems like their story has only just gotten even bigger. The saddest part for me, though, with regards to this whole reveal is that clearly the character of Balin is going to be a big part of it, but who's not going to be inside of it all is Ray Stevenson. Of course, he is the one that played the character, and he will no longer be able to do so considering his unfortunate passing, and it breaks my heart. It really truly does. This reveal showcases to me that Filoni potentially had a lot more planned for his character. Whether that gets explored again in the future at all, or if it's explored with a new actor, remains to be seen, but man, was this reveal just so insane. It also completely goes against the theory that I originally thought was going to happen with his character. If you want to know more about that, go check out the video that I made a few weeks ago theorizing what it could have been. We then cut back to the original galaxy where we see the Chimera making its way to Dathomir. Of course, we know that there was a certain cargo on board his Star Destroyer that he was taking back, and it seems like that cargo is going to be taken to the planet. A cargo, might I add, is a lot bigger than I had originally thought it was, considering I had thought that it was only 54 crates. They gave us a shot showcasing way more than it was, and my god, it is so huge how much he brought with him. So again, we are just begging to ask the questions of what are all those pieces of cargo he's transporting? Why specifically is it going to Dathomir? And will he end up reuniting with the remnants of what remains of the Empire? What does this man have planned? There are so many questions, and I honestly cannot wait to see what people theorize will happen. The next scene is a bit of a weird one for me, as we see the New Republic fleet getting a visitor from an Imperial shuttle that is carrying a certain someone that made his way back to the original galaxy. We see Hera and the New Republic welcoming back Ezra. Now, immediately I kept thinking, how did Thrawn not notice him getting off the ship? Maybe I'm crazy, but the only time he would have escaped was when he got back to the original galaxy and escaped in the shuttle away with anyone actually noticing. But someone for sure would have noticed that. I don't know how it was done, but it does feel like they rushed through that just a little bit. I do kind of wish that they did also show us the embrace between him and Hera on screen instead of cutting away. Our final scene takes place back on Peridea, where Sabine and Ahsoka are talking again back at the camp with the Turtle People, and again, like I said earlier, they are just making up for the troubles that they had, and Sabine says that she sees something in the distance and doesn't know what it is. Ahsoka comes back to look, and maybe without realizing it, since she turns back around to go back to the camp, we see a final shot of Force Ghost Anakin, played by Hayden Christensen, of course. A proper and great way, I think, to end off the season. I love Hayden Christensen so much, and what he has brought to his role since he has come back to play the character. And again, I think it is very fitting that it ended off with him and Ahsoka as the last 2 characters on screen, at least for this season anyway. Which now leads me into my next point of discussion, which is to talk about what is potentially going to happen in the future. My best guess is that we are going to probably get another season of the show showcasing our heroes trying to figure out how to get back while Thrawn plans his rule over the Empire, or this is all just going to be showcased in the movie that Filoni is planning to make. I think there is going to be another season personally, because I think that they just revealed so much here that it wouldn't feel right to only cover that in a movie, which is, probably going to be 2 hours. So I would suggest that they do a season 2 for all this stuff. Of course, we are probably not going to get it for a while because Filoni will have to write it all up and also figure out what to do with Balin, considering he now has to be recast. I think the perfect casting that they should go with is Liev Schreiber. If you just look up all the details behind him, I honest to God think he is a perfect choice. He is also somebody who has worked with Disney+, so it just works out perfectly if you connect all that together. So again, like I said, I think in the next season, it is going to be our heroes trying to get back, and we are going to see some more stuff with the New Republic and Ezra. I also think that we are going to see some more stuff with Shin and Balin, because after all, there's definitely more coming for those characters. I think if their story ends, it's going to be in this next season, which which would then eventually lead into the movie, which is where our heroes and the New Republic go against Thrawn and his empire. Those are just some of my predictions, but we now have reached the end of this video and the most important part, which is where I want to hear everyone's thoughts about what they thought about this episode, the show as a whole, and what your predictions are for the future. I really did enjoy this season of the show, and I'm really looking forward to more. I really do also like what Dave Filoni has been doing, and I look forward to seeing what else he plans to make for Ahsoka or otherwise. I hope everyone here enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Star Wars from me. I'm planning to work on a few videos around some nice edits for the show, so stay tuned. I hope everyone here had a wonderful night watching the episode and a good rest of the week. May the Force be with you.